Authority CDBG grant application. And we'll start the application, Mr. Town Manager, by having the...
Yes, we're going to have the Director. Kevin, do you want to start, or you want to have someone else just explain the, at the podium, just explain it? Either one of you is fine.
And if you don't mind, just state your name and address for the record when you come up. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Peter Testa, A&E Services Group. I've been hired by the town of Southington to prepare this application on behalf of the town of Southington and the Southington Housing Authority. Purpose of tonight's hearing is to, as you say, get citizen input on economic and community development needs and to discuss the application. Applications are due to the Department of Housing on May 31st at 11:59 a.m. The maximum limit of award is $2 million. The Housing Authority is planning on, or the town is applying for the $2 million on behalf of the Housing Authority. The project is eligible, meeting one of the national objectives of benefiting low and moderate income individuals, as all residents that reside at General Pulaski Terrace are within those income limits. The scope of work is we're going to replace the roofing on all buildings. We're installing new gutters on all buildings, upgrades to the existing fire alarm system, installation of new heat pumps, and installation of a closed-circuit security camera system. This application will not generate program income. The funding that is going to be provided to the Housing Authority through this application is as a grant to the Housing Authority, so there'll be no repayments back to the community. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you, Peter. Does anybody have any questions?
Just procedurally, obviously, this is a requirement of the grant. There'll be two votes you take later on in your meeting. One will be for the resolution on the grant itself, and the other one is to update our fair housing resolution. Last time we did it was the last time the Housing Authority did their grant. I believe some of you remember we did up on 500 Pleasant Street. So it's a very similar process to that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Any other questions? Yes.
Just quickly, what is the time frame? So once you apply for the grant?
The application is due on May 31st.
Okay.
After that, to try to guess as to when the governor is going to announce is difficult. Last year, the applications were due in May, and the governor did not announce until December.
Wow.
So, and we're still waiting on state contracts to come down from the Department of Housing to the towns so that we could actually release the funds. So this project won't be going until sometime next year,
Next year, okay.
towards the middle of next year, I would imagine.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And of course, it has to be open to the public, Mr. Chairman, for any comments.
Absolutely. Any other questions before we open it up to the public?
Thank
Final
you.
call, any questions? Thank you, Peter. Okay, are there any members of the public here to speak regarding the 2024 Southington Housing Authority CDBG grant application? Please come on up, speak at the podium. Just please state your name and address for the record, Kevin.
Sure.
Thank you.
It's Kevin Meyer, 61 Bridle Path Drive. As you know, and thank you for, again, working with me and the town and Peter through this entire process. As he just mentioned, it's going to be a very long process. So, you know, in my estimation, I've only been with the Housing Authority about a year and a half now. And looking at it, there's a definite need. The complex that we are going to be getting the funds for, hopefully, is our oldest complex. It was built in 1968, so obviously there are a lot of demands through time and needs for that particular community there. And I think the funds here would obviously go a very, very long way. We don't know if we're going to get them. This is a big process. Hopefully we will. And I just want to put it on a record that I want to thank you for your support and Mark's support through this whole process. And again, we'll know, as Peter said, in May we'll put the application in and we won't know for a few more months. But I do appreciate everybody's help here. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks.
Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak during this public hearing? Please.
I just walked in from the bathroom. Is this concerning the topic at hand or just a general public comment?
This is only regarding the 2024 Southington Housing Authority CDBG grant application. All good? Yep. You're all good? Okay. Anybody else would like to speak regarding the public hearing? Going once, twice? Okay. Hearing none, the public hearing is closed. We will move on to roll call. Madam Town Clerk.
Christopher Palmieri,
Here?
Jack Perry,
Here.
Jennifer Klock. Here. Michael Del Santo.
Present.
Valerie DiPaolo.
Here.
William Dietzick. James Morelli.
Here.
Toni Morrison.
Here.
Paul Chaplinsky.
Here, we have a quorum of 8. Can we please all rise for the prayer and the flag salute?
Heavenly Father, may we consider the people of Southington and always render what is right and just for our citizens. Help us to be compassionate and caring for each individual while still seeking what is appropriate for the entire community. Give us wisdom and guidance. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, everybody. We are looking for a couple motions. We need motions for the minutes of our regular meeting on April 22nd, 2024.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting on April 22nd, 2024.
Thank you, Chris.
I'll second that.
Mike, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Looking for a motion for the special meeting of April 23rd, 2024.
Motion to approve the special meeting on April 23rd.
Second.
Thank you, Chris and Mike. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the special meeting? Meeting minutes, rather? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. And we are going on to item number 3. We need a motion to move into executive session for personnel matters, which will include the 8 members of the town council, the town's attorney, and the town's HR head.
So moved.
Second.
And it's barring the public and the press as well. Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion to move in executive session passes 8-0. For those who are here, we're going to step into the back room here. We're going to conduct a short executive session on personnel matters, and we will be back out when we're done and carry on with the rest of the meeting.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to come back into regular session.
we have a motion to come back into regular section, to exit executive session and come into the regular meeting?
Seconded.
Second with Tony. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So motion passes 8-0, Madam Town Clerk, to move back into regular session at 8:12 PM. Okay, we are moving on to councilpersons' communications. Don't everybody jump in.
Yeah, right.
Jen,
Yes, so, can everyone hear me?
yes.
Myself, Jack, and Candace Mazzarella had the opportunity to take part in our town's fire department's live burn training. So we received a classroom education about fire and the components of fire and what makes fire burn hotter now rather than in the past. And we learned ways to mitigate and control fire. But the real training came when we all put on our gear, complete with oxygen masks, tanks, hard hats, boots, gloves, the whole 9 yards. And we went into the training facility, all controlled, that had fire on 2 separate levels. The building was filled with smoke, it was dark, and the heat was honestly overwhelming, and especially when you were about 2 feet from the source. So this experience, I want to tell you, played a critical role in fundamentally understanding the requirements of their job, and it really was inspiring to have a small, very small glimpse into the experience of a firefighter. Last week, we also attended the community stakeholders presentation that the department is hosting on its strategic planning process, and it was very clear. We have some dedicated staff committed to our town's needs, and I just want to give a special thank you to Chief Eric Heath, Assistant Chief Scott Lee, the entire Southington Fire Department, including my protector for the day, Lieutenant Ryan Pulver. Thank you for spending the time to educate and protect us and letting us into your world, and it was greatly appreciated.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Councilwoman Clark.
I've got something, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Del
Just
Santo.
briefly, I know we spoke at the last couple of meetings about the dedication of the pavilion at Recreation Park. We're going to have a ceremony on Wednesday, June 12th at 5:30 PM to dedicate the pavilion to Mr. Laporte. So the public is invited, come on out, it'll be brief, just, it's a passion item for us to do this for Mr. Laporte. So that's Wednesday, the 12th of June at 5:30 PM, right at the pavilion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Del Santo. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, just
Hold on one second, Tony. Chris.
sorry.
I have a couple things. I also had the pleasure of attending the strategic planning with the fire department last week, right? Last week, with Jen and Jack. One of the things I thought was really, really critical for us, for the town, is looking at the services, and we did an exercise with community stakeholders about what services we would expect from our fire department, and then what expectations we have for the fire department. So to follow up from that meeting, we received notification they were going to share the community stakeholders, all the facts that we gathered with the members of the department. And then from there, get back and put together a strategic plan for the department moving forward. So I really think it was beneficial, and hopefully we'll hear some great insight from the department based upon what the stakeholders felt were our desires for the community. Second, my last shout out for the gold medal, which is put on by Unico. Each year they honor a community member with their mantra, service above self. So this year's recipient is our retired Deputy Police Chief, Bill Palmieri. So he will be honored this Wednesday at the AquaTurf. Tickets are still available. They're $85 per person, and they're available at Maximum Security on Meriden-Waterbury Turnpike, and also at Fazzulo CPA in downtown Plantsville. So if anyone's interested, you can still attend the gold medal this Wednesday at the AquaTurf. Last meeting, I mentioned about the coat drive, which was through all their public schools, which is through our town buildings, the library, the calendar house. Janet Mellon, the Community Services, reported out that thanks to the generosity of the community, Approximately 620 coats were donated, which is fantastic because they'll put those into storage for next winter rather than scrounging looking for jackets when it's a time of need. So just a huge shout out to all the members of the community for contributing to that. And then finally, kind of a last minute thing, but this morning I had the pleasure to attend a ceremony at Kennedy Middle School in town honoring someone we're all familiar with, Steve Pinterich. Steve Pinterich was honored by the State of Connecticut Department of Education. Steve Armstrong, who oversees social studies for the department, the State Department of Ed, was in attendance there, and he was recognized for doing an exemplary job of talking and teaching about veterans and their contributions to the American society. So professionally, I can tell you the amount of time Steve spends in the schools is really, it's beyond comparison how much time he spends with a lot of our veterans in town. But Steve really takes us on and spearheads a lot of the efforts. So we proclaim today as Steve Pinterich Day in the town of Southington. So just another special shout out, and it was on behalf of the entire town council. So thank you, Steve and his family, for all the contributions they make in our community.
Good stuff. Thank you so much, Chris, and thanks for doing that this morning at the school. One item also to clarify, I did speak with the chair of the Fire Commission, who also said that they are going to continue to follow up with the fire department as well with a survey to get some of their feedback and ensure that there's a ground-up feedback mechanism that also ties into the strategic plan as well. So thanks to all of you who were able to attend. Thank you. Tony.
Yes, I attended the Sikh parade last weekend, and it was great to see it. They're a great, vibrant community within the town. They also give a lot to the town in terms of charity, and it was great to see them.
Thank you, Tony.
Well, just thank you. Just a couple quick things. So I wanted to thank Paul as the chair, Jim, vice chair, for being at the 300th anniversary for the First Congregational Church. We had a great dinner. We had a great service last Sunday. I know Paul was able to attend that. So the last event celebrating the 300th anniversary is this coming Sunday from 1 to 4 o'clock, a community block party outside the church in the parking lot. Rain or shine, so if it rains, we'll move inside. Everyone is invited, and it's the kind of the culmination of the 300th anniversary for the church. So it's just been great celebrations, and I just wanted to thanks for the, on behalf of the church, for the town proclamation for the dinner. And then the other thing is the Southington Pride, this Saturday has the Youth and Family Pride Festival, and that is at the YMCA Camp Sloper. That's from 2 to 5. So there'll be a lot of activities for the kids and the families, and the police command vehicle will be there, and just be a good time. So hopefully the weather will be good on Saturday.
We got a note about that, right? It's 2:30 p.m. Saturday?
Well, there's a flag raising there at 2:30.
Cool.
But the festival will start at 2, so 2
Wonderful.
to 5. Yes.
Hope everybody has a wonderful day there.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
Val, I'm going to pass this in so that this gets put into the record, because we did give a town proclamation for the First Congregational Church 300 years. We got a really nice note back from the
Ron.
church, yep, from Pastor Ron Brown. Really, really nice, thanking the council for their efforts. So I'll pass it down to the clerk to put into the records on that. And Val, if I can, I wanted to just say thank you as well. Val's not telling everybody that she was one of the people who were in the choir and providing some of the music. It was unbelievable. The music that was put on from the many people who were involved, everything from bell ringing to traditional choir to kind of a new age type of a music, instrumental. It was just beautiful, and we couldn't have celebrated the church's presence in our community in a better way. It was really well done. So congratulations to you and all of the people who put that on.
Yeah, thank you.
Give us a little flavor.
Solo.
I'll sing about the budget.
Okay.
Kind of song.
Jack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I had the opportunity to participate again in this year, and I know Paul couldn't make it because his son was graduating college, but the dunk tank at Family Fun Day that was put on by Joanne Salerno to benefit the Connecticut Children's Medical. Jamie Sewell, he's in the audience, he participated. Candace Mazzarella did as well. So the water was colder this year than it was last year. But it was a great turnout, in my opinion. It was another successful event. And Jim Morelli was also funding the balls to be thrown at us. So that was fun. Another thing, just echoing what Councilwoman Clark stated, the firefighter training was amazing. It gave me a whole new perspective on what they go through, and the heat, and it's very exhausting. The gear that they wear is kind of like wearing a snowsuit. You just get tired from just walking. So that was, I didn't expect that. And then the other thing that kind of threw a curveball was your oxygen gets hot. You wouldn't think of it, but your cylinder is getting hot behind you, so then you start breathing in hot air. So it's very taxing going upstairs when your air is like very hot. So it was definitely an eye-opener. And again, Chief Heath and Lee, I can't thank them enough for extending that invite. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. That's wonderful. Anybody else? Jim, anybody?
I got a couple, just quick. So as Jack said, I did also attend the Family Fun Day at Recreation Park, the theater, and it was quite impressive. I think that there was a lot of hard work to put into that event, and it was great to see everybody there. I also did want to comment that I was able to participate in the 300th year of the church in Southington. And the thing that I find amazing is that church group was founded 55 years before the town of Southington was even Southington. So it was settlers from Farmington in Southington before it was Southington that started that congregation, and they've been here ever since. So I think that's really impressive, and I think they do a fantastic job in town, and again, I appreciate that they invited us to that celebration. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Everybody good? Just a couple other items. We were, I think we were made aware of an issue with the bus along Queen Street with probably a continuation of some of the communication stumbles that we've had as we start up. So Mr. Town Manager, if you'd be kind enough just to follow through and let us know how that looks by the next meeting. The goal is just to ensure that the bus is stopping where there's 2 lanes in one direction, so that there's enough room for cars to get around, and we found out that it hadn't been doing that. So.
Yeah, the email was very clear of the fact that the person who wrote the email was also not pleased that was taking place. So that being said, that person is working with my contact, which
Thank
is
you.
Annette, and they're handling that part of it.
That's wonderful.
But that's one thing the chief made perfectly clear, that no pulling over on the one-lane side.
Thank you so much. Also, a couple events. So we heard about the Unico event. May 16th, the council is going to be going, and other folks who are invited to the summit for the Wall of Honor at 2 o'clock, where we'll acknowledge some of our veterans from the summit. May 27th is the Memorial Day Parade, so that's put on by the American Legion, Kiltonic Post 72, so I'm going to pass that along for the record for those who may be looking for information on that. The Memorial Day Parade steps off at 10:30 a.m., and immediately following the end of the procession, which all of us are invited to partake, as we have done in the past. Following the parade, we're inviting the entire community to the town green, where we can participate in a small Memorial Day service led by the American Legion to honor our fallen soldiers. Okay. Also, we got the Pride, Val, thank you. I wanted to just mention that Prior Chair and Pastor Victoria Trano held a National Day of Prayer on the town green. I think she's here. Thank you, Victoria, for putting that out and holding that. I heard wonderful things, a lot of great songs, and pulling people from different faiths together. Thank you for doing that. Last week, and Chris, thank you. Last week was Teacher Appreciation Week, So thank you to you and everybody else here in town and abroad who are teaching all the children in our communities. We know that that's not an easy task. And shout out to all the teachers who are out there day in and day out doing the heavy lifting for 9 hours a day or more in the classroom. And my wife's one of those fourth grade teachers. So thank you, Kim, and all the other teachers for all you do. Last week was, we had Nursing Week also, and this week is Skilled Nursing Home Week. So also want to give a nod to those professionals who are in the nursing community and both in all the different locations of hospitals and also assisted living nursing homes for the services that they provide those who are in need. Okay. If there's no more councilperson communications, we will move on to item 5, action on the budgets. Item number 1 is, we have a few different, I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 7 components that we're going to be doing during the budget here. And we're going to take them each one at a time, and we'll be looking for a specific motion and a second on them, and then we'll have some discussion. And we'll open it up with item A, Board of Education.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve a 5.7%, approximately 5.7% operating increase to the Board of Education budget for a total of $115,960,489 for fiscal year 2024-2025.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion to approve a Board of Education budget for 2024-2025 and a second.
Mr. Chair.
Any discussion?
Through you, can I ask the finance director what an additional cut that amounts to from the Board of Finance?
Please.
From the Board of Finance, that is 800, on the school side only, it's $855,200 less. 2 components to that, $355,200 of a reduction to the self-insurance fund contribution, and $500,000 of a general offset to the a reduction to the budget request.
Again,
So,
can I just ask it?
Just for clarification, Chris, it's
How does the finance director know the intent of what that cut amount?
it's $500,000 to the Board of Education, correct? So it's a $500,000 reduction from the ask from the Board of Ed, and it is, the remainder of that is the self-insurance. If you recall, the self-insurance committee had a meeting at the last meeting where there was an adjustment to the projections by our consultant in the amount of $600,000. And that $600,000 is split between Board of Education and between town government. And so the education component of that plus the $500,000 is what's cited.
Right, but all I asked for was the dollar amount. My question.
Yes.
My follow-up question is, if I'm hearing that for the first time, I don't want to speak, but I think I can speak for Jack and Val as well. This is the first time I'm hearing.
Well, so there was no action taken at the self-insurance
Correct.
committee meeting. There was a spirited debate, we'll call it, that we wouldn't take action on recommending any further cuts. So that is what happened at the self-insurance committee meeting. There was no motions. We did not recommend. That is a great committee, even though sometimes it's a little challenging to keep up with, the claims and the projections and all that. But everybody that serves on that committee does a phenomenal job, and there was no appetite on making a motion or any further cuts.
That's correct.
So let me.
Tony.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go on.
If I can get clarity on the motion, just so we all know. So, okay, the motion's based on a number, and my understanding is the Board of Ed's percentage of the amount you were talking about on self-insurance would be $355,200.
That's
And
correct.
then the motion also includes an operational reduction of
$500,000.
$500,000. So
Correct.
the motion to get to the number that the vice chair was talking about, just so we have clarity on the record, That motion would require a $500 reduction in the operational budget,
500,000.
500,000.
500,000 in the operational budget, and 355,200 in expense that no longer exists.
That's correct.
Okay.
That is a self-insurance budget. There has been precedent the last few years as we approach the budget vote by the town council. It is not uncommon for the proposed budget or for the council to vote on a budget that has an adjusted number based on the most recent projections from the self-insurance professional. And I believe Tony.
Yeah, I was just about to say, we left it at the Self-Insurance Committee meeting that, as Jack said, no motions were made to take anything to the town council at that point. However, the point was made that the town council would look at this a few weeks later and may use that, if they agreed with that recommendation from our consultant, that we would use it to defray some of the costs of the budget. Because let's face it, this budget is a real serious issue for us in terms of the expense it's loading on the town. So any little helps, and it was felt that was it should be taken, and that's why it was.
Thank you, Tony.
Mr.
Any other
Chair?
questions?
Yeah.
Yes, Jack.
So again, I have to disagree. There was some appetite for that, but it wasn't going to be, in my opinion, approved from that committee. And I think this is going backwards of what we should be doing. We as a self-insurance committee, you know, our reserves have really been impacted year over year. And then we give a recommendation of what should be taken out of reserves to help offset the budget. And now we're going back and we're taking $355,000 out of the self-insurance committee's reserves, pretty much, because of that. So again, our numbers are projected off of that 355 being there. Now, hang on. So now by this cut happening, you know, it's not going to be there, which is going to reduce our reserves, which, if you look at, you know, the budgets, we've been going and dipping into the reserves, you know, just to pay the claims. And then each year we're taking, you know, $1 million, 1.4, you know, so I think it's also shocking to be just told this at this meeting, that this is what's happening.
Can I just clarify though, Jack? I think what I heard you say is that this is taking from the reserves, and I don't believe that's the case. This is reducing the budgeted amount according to the latest projections for what is expected to be spent next year. So it's actually not taking from the reserves, it's actually just reducing the budget.
But it's a projection on a small period of time. And just like anything, has highs and lows. So we just saw the last couple months be better than what they were.
Yes.
But doesn't mean that in 6 months from now, we're going to be in the same position. So just please be prepared that when the tides turn and we are now over budget, and I'm going to come back to every council meeting and explain that we are dipping into the reserves because the projections were already approved. They were voted on by the self-insurance committee. And there's residents that volunteer. Sal's one of them, and he's an underwriter, and he did not have an appetite for this. So we ask our residents to volunteer and give back, and I think it's just so dishonest and misleading. Like, why have Sal there then? If we don't want Sal's opinion, then why have Sal there?
Okay.
I just think that, you know, it's more than just a 355. We're all volunteering, and when you have somebody that this is what they know, not in favor of it, that's a problem.
Thank you, Jack. Anybody else?
Yes.
Hold on, Tony, let me just get Jim. We haven't asked Jim yet.
I just want to say that year over year, we hear several times throughout the year that the reserves are very high. So what is the reserve right now? How many dollars are in reserve for self-insurance?
$8 million.
Jack?
No.
8 million.
8 million. 8 million. And again, the chair just told you that we're not taking that from that 8 million. It's coming from other ways. Another thing,
Just one thing. Is that with or without IBNR, Nick?
Yeah, IBNR.
Is IBNR part of the 8 million or not part of the 8 million? I
No,
want to make
there's-
sure the record's clear.
Approximately 10 million in cash. The IBNR would reduce
to
that
8.
down to approximately 8.
Okay, very good, thanks.
All
right,
I'm
and-
rounding that probably a little liberally.
and for the public, that we are self-insured. So we have a pool of money that we have in reserve in case we go over our budgeted number, and we can take from that. And again, like I said, I've been on the council now, this is my third term, and I hear constantly that we have a lot of money in that, and we pay a guy to help the town manage that money, and it's discussed at those meetings, I understand. Another thing that I remember quite vividly was that we were trying to beef that reserve up because during COVID, we weren't having people go to the doctor, and then we were worried that when they came out of COVID, we would get a lot of expense. And I think you guys saw that, but I also believe that that additional expense will not be there now because people are already treated and we're back to a normal run rate. So again, we hire a professional to give us advice, and I don't think that $380,000 or whatever, $350,000, whatever it is, against a line item that has $8 million or $10 million in reserve is even anything to talk about. So that's just my opinion on that. And I understand your concerns, Jack, but I think that's kind of crazy personally.
Thank you, Jim. Tony?
Yeah, just quickly on reserves in general. I mean, Jim's exactly right. A few years ago, we had 0 reserves in the self-insurance, and it was built up during COVID. And with reserves, you do this. You essentially go through a period in years where you have money coming in, you put it in reserves. In years where you don't and you've got financial problems, you use that. That's what you're using reserves for, and that's what we're doing now. And that's the policy we follow all across this town in reserves. Okay? We have, our general fund, we have, 34 million now in reserves. We have others, like the sewer department. I'm going to talk about something to do with the reserves tonight about that. We put the money away conservatively because we want reserves for a whole lot of reasons, and we'll use it when we have to for financial reasons. That's exactly what we're doing here.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Val.
So I wanted to talk about self-insurance, but it's making me think about the undesignated fund balance. So we currently have 32.4 million in the undesignated fund balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our policy is to have in there is 11% of our spending budget, correct? So 11% of our current spending budget is approximately $20 million. So we have, let's say, $12 million extra in our rainy day fund. So it begs the question, so that's like 17 or 18% in our rainy day fund. So for our residents, isn't it fair we're saying we want to spend these reserves, right? We want to use these reserves in some manner. Well, aren't we overtaxing our residents if now we have this amount of money in our rainy day fund, and we have a lot of projects that we could use that money for, maybe, there's a lot of different projects that are out there that we could, maybe incentives for senior housing or affordable, whatever. There's a million projects I'm sure that we could come up with that $12 million could go towards. So I'm taking the point that Mr. Morrison is saying here that, yes, we're trying to use these reserves. I still don't agree, I think, about the self-insurance fund, but that's a different point. But in looking at the budget and doing this over these last 5 years, it really just strikes me that we have this amount of money in our rainy day fund. And when, as a council, are we doing our due diligence? We should be asking, when is too much too much? Is there something that we could be doing with those funds? So I just want to kind of put that out there. The self-insurance fund, I feel very I was not aware that it was at 8 million. It seems to me that over the last few years, we've used 1.4 million at one point. I thought the Board of Finance just used a couple $100,000 in addition. So they've used another couple $100,000. The reserves were decreased by 1 million by the committee, right, Jack? And now we're using another 355. So yes, it's only 355, right? That's tonight. But over the course of these last few years, we've really dug into that self-insurance fund. And I guess it kind of just, it raises that question for me. It's a dangerous precedent to set that money is there for claims. And the consultants do their job and they try to project out. And if we're going to continue to take from that to try to keep our mill rate down, I don't know if that's the best use of those funds as well.
Thank you, Val. Anybody else? Before I see Jack and Chris. Yep, go ahead, Jack.
So, to guess echo, what Councilwoman DiPaolo stated, I agree that we should be looking at, using our reserves. I also understand that our bond rating goes off that. Self-insurance, what I've realized since I've been on it is we have a policy for our reserves and how much we could utilize of the reserves. So yes, it has been brought up, but I think like Toni Morrison said, I think it was over 20 years ago that the reserves weren't there. So it's a bigger picture, in my opinion, on how we're using this. We have a policy that we are not adhering to. The committee is. But then the council's just, rolling through. There's other reserves that we could use if you guys want to do that. But it's also the employee contributions will be reduced by reducing that budget.
That's correct.
So you're talking over $400,000. Again, if the trend doesn't go in a better direction. So based on, my memory of that meeting and what we heard from our consultant, as well as Anthem's projections and numbers and, what the employees would be paying is still less than, what they think it should be. So now we're going to even make it less, which means the fund's going to dip even more.
Thank you, Jack. Chris?
Just, I guess, to clarify, first of all, and then I want to make a statement too, but while we're talking about the Board of Ed budget, the original superintendent's proposed operating budget was $119,680,436. The Board of Ed reduced that by $2,326,347. So that's already a reduction of $2.3 million from the Board of Education. The Board of Finance then reduced the budget, and they reduced it an additional $420,000, if I'm correct, Mr. Bose?
Correct.
All right, so that's another $420,000. Proposed tonight is an additional $855,200 reduction. And then I also want to throw in there that was shared to us from the chair of the Board of Education. There really is an additional reduction of $115,000, and that's the reduction in the excess cost reimbursement grant. So while that's a source of revenue, now that's not a source of revenue that's going to fund part of that operational budget. So that $115,000 is realistically an additional cut because of how that was laid out after the Board of Finance presented the budget. Back to Tony's original point, this is a tough year, and for 3 years we have talked about on the council level and the Board of Finance, Board of Ed, we've talked about using sources of non-recurring revenue like COVID funding and last year the non-lapsing account. While the self-insurance fund is a little different than that, it's still potentially another source of revenue that is not replenishable from year after year. So I'm very concerned that now this year, because of the past 3 years and using funds that really, again, aren't replaceable from year to year, now we find ourselves in this situation. And to cut an additional $855,200 from the Board of Education, I think is going to have an impact on operations within education in the community.
Thank you, Chris. Anybody else? I'd like to just ask a couple questions. For the self-insurance, Jim, if you can clarify, currently we have about 10 million in the reserve. There's about 2 million in what we have as anticipated expenses, things that have been, claims that are still in the process, if you will. We have to pay the bills, which is going to leave us roughly 8 million in reserves. With the reduction of the 600,000, I had asked the chair if that still meets the policy that the self-insurance committee has. Can you confirm, from what I understand, that would still continue to meet the policy that the self-insurance has?
The policy.
And the policy is a self-imposed policy, of course.
Yeah, the policy deals with limiting the committee's ability to utilize up to only $1 million of reserves out the self-insurance fund towards next year's costs. And I believe that's what a couple folks up here have referred to, that has been exceeded. Then the policy gets into how to sort of come down from that over a period of years to bring them in smaller steps downward rather than jumping off of a cliff. But, so the policy deals with that. Then the policy also has what I would call floor levels, certain amounts that we try not to go lower than, to, again, just to, I guess, to emphasize what somebody else has said up here tonight, so that we don't have to, so that we have a little bit of coverage there if we needed to. That's what reserves are for there. So, but the whole thing about the self-insurance policy is I think everybody on the committee is in pretty strong agreement that we would like to, or the folks on there would like to examine it and have our consultant maybe update it a little bit, because self-insurance changes drastically from year to year. Health insurance is like unlike any other cost on the planet. And in case I never said it enough times to Mark Schoda, my boss, I absolutely hate being self-funded for health insurance. Hate it. Hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. And almost every finance director in the state of Connecticut that you know will say, oh, self-funding is great. No, it ain't. Because here we are fighting about what the reserve should be. Yes, I don't mean fighting, having a nice discussion. And you know what? It's different. The answer, if you polled 169 cities and towns in Connecticut, the answer you'd get 169 different answers. It is basically what do the folks who run the town feel comfortable with? And I think that's where the policy probably has to be updated. And I think everybody on the committee has stated that, and I believe that's going to be addressed at the June meeting of the Self-Insurance Committee. I don't know if there will be action taken, but at least it'll be brought up.
Thank you, Jim. And just, for everybody, Val mentioned a little bit earlier, we have a healthy undesignated fund, a reserve fund. If for some reason there were to be an issue at the self-insurance level, we have a healthy reserve that we could always tap into. But it's clear we still have about $8 million in the self-insurance. I personally think we're going to be fine there.
Excuse
We're
me,
gonna-
Paul, just as you're saying that, can I ask, is that $8 million, does that count with the reductions from this year?
Yes.
Is it-
That was the audited fund balance at the end of last fiscal year, 6/30/2023. That's the last audited numbers we have.
So that's not counting the reductions?
That's correct. It's still 2 more months of the fiscal year, correct.
That's up until the last report that we had. It was just this past month, the most recent one. And I will say, it is precedent, the precedent has been set in the last handful of years. We have adjusted the self-insurance budget. As a reminder, the reduction in the budget is not a reduction. We're not taking from the rainy day fund from the self-insurance. We are lowering the projections and lowering the budget because we don't anticipate the need to spend as much money on the self-insurance. So as Val mentioned, why overtax? Why take the money if we don't need it? So with that, we're going to call the roll. The motion and second is to approve a Board of Education operating budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 in the amount of $115,960,489. Madam Clerk.
Palmieri,
No.
Perry,
No.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
No.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes 5-8. Item 1B.
6-3.
I'm sorry, no, 5-3.
5-3, I'm sorry.
5-3. 5-3, we're missing one. So item 1B, we're looking for a motion now on the general government operating budget
Mr.
without
Chair?
recreation budget.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I would like
Yes.
to make a motion to approve $50,886,739 for the general government operating budget, excluding Recreation Department for the fiscal year 2024-2025.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have a motion from Jen and a second from Mike. Any discussion on?
Jen?
$50,800,086.739. Hold on. $886,739.
Thank you.
50,886,739 on the general government. And with that, 41,600 came from the Board of, from the Board of Finance, but an additional 124,800 from self-insurance budget, just the same as we just discussed with the Board of Ed. The total reduction from the budget from self-insurance that's being proposed is 600,000, split between the Board of Ed and the general government, and then, of course, the employee share. Chris?
So just to clarify, so with the recreation budget removed, the general government budget would be, turn to our finance director, $51,011,539, correct? With just the budget as is, without recreation.
Without recreation is 50, as proposed tonight, or for the
No, no,
Board of
no.
Finance? I'm sorry.
As approved by the Board of Finance. I think it's $51,011,539.
It would
Let
be
me
the-
just, I'm throwing that number
It'd be the
together,
120,
Councilman.
24.8 less, Jim. The 124.8 that they took off for self-insurance,
got
would be- that's the difference between the two.
All right, so I guess another way around it is, the only reduction you're proposing to the general government budget is again, self-insurance.
That's
Is that-
correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Counselor Palmieri, yes, 51,011,539.
Okay.
Your number's correct.
Good math, Chris.
That's the general
bad.
government.
Calculator.
Not bad.
That's the general government excluding recreation as recommended by the Board of Finance.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes, I just need a minute.
I can, well,
Yeah.
I can I guess I just want to think about this for a second out loud. So you're proposing, the Board of Ed budget is being further cut by 855,200. But the general government is being cut, basically, even though it's through the self-insurance fund, 124,800.
Correct.
Okay, all right, so I think, I just really want to make the statement that I really feel, you know, doing these budgets for the last 5 years, I really think we should be looking at it being a little bit more fair and equitable between the two budgets, between the Board of
Mr.
Ed
Chair?
and the general government. So, you know, we want to get the mill rate down, we want to get the percentage down for our taxes. I would think in a budget of 51 million, there should be some funds that we can find in the general government that we can reduce the general government a little bit more. I mean, no one likes cuts, obviously, but there's got to be a few areas that we could find some cuts. And I had gone through, and there are some areas that I saw that we could at least be a little bit more equitable with the cutting. And so that we're not doing, I don't think it's sustainable for the Board of Ed budget to continue with these cuts each year. I just don't think, it's level services budgets every year, and I think it is going to start impacting, you know, the teaching and programs. But why wouldn't we look at some of the areas in the general government where we could potentially make some cuts there?
Okay, I saw you and Chris, I see Chris nodding. What, do you have a proposal that you would like to
I know
put up
Chris
there?
has some.
Sure, I have a couple. But Val, just to make your point, if we take self-insurance aside for both, there was no cuts for the town, right? If we take self-insurance out, we're proposing no cuts for the town, and we're proposing cuts for the Board of Education. Just some general questions. One item, I guess, to start, in the capital budget, it's basically cash funded $400,000. Widen resurfacing.
What page, Chris?
Page 108.
Thank you. 108.
It's a capital budget.
Okay.
But that's the cash funded portion?
That's cash-funded capital budget, not capital, technically capital
Correct.
items, because that's used for prepping the roads for roads that get work that gets done.
Which item are you talking about?
That very one.
The roads?
It's the widen.
It's 400,000,
resurfacing
I think, right?
Yep.
400,000.
So you
Road
propose
widening.
cutting that?
Well, what I'm thinking is, if we're going for a $15 million referendum for roads anyway, widen, resurface, and drain, I think that could potentially be part of.
That's the problem, it's not.
But why?
Because road widening improvements has never been part of the, he's nodding too, never been part of the bonding. We don't bond for road widening improvements, because what happens, we do drainage and things like that, that's more of a maintenance. So we keep that separate from using our bond money for it, because it's technically not bondable money, and Jim could explain a little bit more than I can, but yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, well, we're the town, and I think aptly so, the last several times has gone to referendum and asked the citizens who have approved bonding to do major, I would call it, overhaul of the roads in town, getting all the way down to the macadam, milling, et cetera, drainage and the curbing, et cetera, that goes along with that. So you're basically bringing the expected useful life of that road that you anticipate for at least 10 years. Now, doesn't mean it's going to last in a nice pristine condition for 10 years, don't get me wrong, but that's sort of a generally accepted principle when it comes to things of that nature. The item that I believe you're referring to in the capital budget is more of an every year type of, I don't want to call it just regular maintenance, because it's not, but it's sort of advanced maintenance. That's something that you're really not extending the useful life of that road or that drainage system, et cetera, for much more than just getting you through until you get around to doing that road out of our bond projects.
Okay.
I hope that helps. I don't.
So Chris, did you want to propose cutting that? Do you want to ask for a?
Well, I have a follow-up question,
Okay.
too. So it went from $300,000 to $400,000.
Yeah.
So what's with the,
We're getting another, hopefully, the public will grant us $15 million in November, so we wanted to bump it up a little bit.
Yeah.
see, and that's where I'm confused, because what you just said, Mark, that's why I was thinking,
It's prep work.
Yeah, prep work.
Yeah, so if we have to do some prep work, that's the prep work, that's not the 10-year stuff that we're talking about. It's prep work that we have to do on roads to prepare if we do use bonding money for them.
okay.
And that's only establishing it back to 400,000, because 2 years ago it was $500,000, I think, Mark?
Yeah, I had $500,000, but during the budget cycles,
Yeah.
we reduced it.
It was reduced, yeah.
Difficult budgets over the last couple of years.
Yeah, to me, I'm just hearing a lot of overlap between I'm struggling still why we couldn't use some of the 15 million for that prep work for the roads, because that's,
Well, I can only tell you what we're told, Chris.
Okay.
We don't screw around with the bonding money. We make sure, because if you screw around with the bonding money, you're
Yeah.
real in deep trouble. So
I don't
when
wanna do
when we tell the bond council what we're doing, we separate that and use cash money for each fiscal year, so we don't get into trouble. Just like, well, I'm confused, why did you use this for this? We don't want to get involved in that. So we specifically say, this is for road widening and improvements. And it doesn't have to be used for bonding roads. It could be roads that we're doing for other things.
Yeah.
So that's why we keep that separate from our bonding money, so that if we ever do get audited on bonds, we don't get ourselves in trouble.
yeah.
So we're going to increase the amount that we're going to be doing next year. If it passes,
Hopefully that number stays, instead of 300,000, hopefully for the next 4 years it stays at 400,000, but that's obviously up to the council.
understand? Okay.
I understand.
Anything else, Chris?
Yes. We worked with the fire department and police department for, which I think all 9 of us fully supported, giving money for emergency management funds for police and fire department. There's still some funds in this budget, and again, I'm wondering, is that something we could have looked at during that time too, so it's not in the budget? For example, in emergency management, program supplies for the Emergency Operations Center. Also, let's see, there's another one here. Response team equipment used to cover costs of equipment replacement items. So is that funds that could have been asked for as part of our one-time capital improvement for the police and fire department? So again, it wasn't part of the operational budget. Because, again, those are emergency,
Well, like I said, I can only tell you what the department heads tell me, is that they're on a schedule, just like motor vehicles, just like equipment, it's all on a schedule. So in situations like you did before, we used capital money for those items. So those are the one-time capital expenses, and I know I keep using that term because that's what the bond council uses. When you're talking about saying, okay, we're gonna replace equipment every 4 or 5 years, which we do, we start using undated fund balance for that. That's no longer, that's maintenance. You're just doing it, it's like me saying, let's take our cars, which, I do the cars through the budget reallocation. That's how we pay for our cars. And the police, if you notice in the police, in their budget, you'll see for four cruisers. Every year we give the police 4 cruisers. We don't take that money out of the undated fund balance, that's in the current balance, because it's a maintenance. It's how they work their equipment, how they work their firearms, how they work their vehicles. Fire department does the same thing.
okay?
Yeah, the big ticket items, they can't afford, we have to do those. So if you have a major vehicle, like a Public Works major vehicle, they can't do that through their budget. That's when we do it through the capital expenditure.
Okay. The next one is kind of, sounds opposite, but in the long run, I'm hoping it will save us money. We had talked a lot about IT and improving, in fact, Jen chaired the committee. Is there ways we could realize savings just by upgrading and improving within our IT budget? Because I know we talked about
You
that.
can ask the town manager.
You notice I added $350,000, if you look in the capital on that.
In the capital, or I'm in the IT budget?
Well, if you look in the capital,
Yep.
and I'm using budget referendum, using.
Reallocation.
Budget reallocation monies, I believe it's $350,000. Last year was 0, I think, or close to 0.
What is that under town manager?
No, it would be under IT.
No. What is it in the?
Under the capital improvement.
Capital improvements.
I'm in the capital improvement budget.
Information technology on page 171, $375,000. Townwide IT.
Three-quarters of the way
infrastructure.
down.
That's
That's
cash.
this year's cash.
That's cash 2024, which will be coming to you, not this meeting, but next meeting. It goes to the Board of Finance this coming Thursday.
So that's going to be spent in this current budget cycle, Chris, not next.
Okay, so that is there, but it's through budget reallocation.
Yep.
Okay. In the general, which again, I think is a good thing, but it just seems there's, I think they're about a third in each department budget for professional association, professional training. What has changed this year from past years? Again, I think it's a good thing to
Which
have that
departments are you
training.
talking about?
There's several, I marked.
There's a couple of them where I know that I pushed for years for professional development. So there may be, each department had different reasons to add stuff in there, which I've agreed to almost every one of them. So I can't tell you specifically which one, but I approved of every one of those requests from department heads for future, definitely for continuing education.
Any, Chris, you're not looking to reduce that, are you? Continuing
No,
education? Okay.
I said, I think, I
Okay.
just didn't understand why
Okay.
each department it's so,
We're adding more people too, Chris. It used to be just the department heads, but I've asked them to go down farther so that more people get trained.
Any other questions, Chris? Can we go to somebody else?
yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Val.
So just looking at, in the general budget, if you look at the overtime for police and fire, right? We estimate that. And if there's not enough there when the year starts to, when is it that transfers then can be made?
Internal transfers can be made the day after the budget's approved,
So
July
there's n-
July 2nd. So that's all internal between the department itself.
Right.
Has to go through the board, through my office, the Board of Finance, and to
Finance,
you.
right.
If something's not in there, you can't transfer it out, the next step is you have to hit contingency.
Mm-hmm.
That could be done anytime during the budget cycle. After April 1st, we could take money from anywhere in the budget to move anywhere in the budget. That's
Okay.
after April 1st.
That's
So-
after April 1st, so you would have a better idea at that point if
That's-
you're running low
Exactly. That's
for
why the charter,
overtime.
that's why the charter says that, is that it gives the manager, the Board of Finance, the ability to move outside of the budget, the singular budget, to move into the entire budget to see where you could shift money around.
Right, and you'd go to, through the Board of Finance to.
That's
You
gonna
have to go
start
through
at
the
the-
manager, the Board of Finance, Town Council, always, that's always the
Right,
process.
that's always.
That'll start at our next meeting.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So I guess that's just something that I would point out, is that we have, you know, for the police department, we're budgeting $550,000 for overtime, and for the fire department, $628,002. So, you know, there's an opportunity, I'm not saying to take obviously all of that, but there's an opportunity to take maybe a small amount from each, reduce the general budget a little bit, and then not have to reduce the Board of Ed budget as much.
So you would propose reducing fire and police overtime to fund some of the education on this?
Well, to reduce if we're trying to be a little bit more fair and equitable here, to reduce, rather than taking the chunk of the money from the Board of Ed every year, look to the general government, where are some places we can take to reduce a little bit? We're not and we're not taking it away, because if April comes and there's money that they need for overtime, they'll find it somewhere else, is what because that's an estimate, right? We don't know what's going to happen for overtime.
There's several items, overtime being one of them, and that's why the charter gives us the ability. The department has to work internally until they can't work internally anymore. Then the next step is the contingency.
Okay.
Once April 1st runs around, you don't have to hit the contingency, you can do other things. But yes, the charter is very specific on the department heads putting a number in. Overtime is always, I can tell you, the police and fire, usually they come back to get money for overtime.
Right, which
Yeah.
I would expect.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, we're here now, could be months out, and we're looking for, it's tight. We're looking for some way to be a little bit more fair, and those were just a couple items that
Is there a dollar amount that you want to propose for the motion to be amended, Val, to cut fire and
I
PD?
haven't thought about that. I would put it out to you guys, what you
Okay.
might think on it.
Anybody else? Thanks, Val. Tony?
Yeah, just like, it bothers me about, Mr. Chairman, about this fair and equitable stuff, because, you know, I mean, all of us have been involved in this stuff for quite a while now. And every year, okay, we're given town budgets, which we have cut in previous years, but the town, which has all the departments apart from education, is 28% of what we do. It's 28% of our entire budget is the police, fire, public works, et cetera, number one. Number two, to say that this budget is unfair this year is, I'm grappling with that. Because once you take the general government budget, you take out the stuff that's funded, the capital, right, that's funded from the reserves or cash or the budget reallocation, the general government has increased by 3.5%, right? 3.5%. The Board of Education has increased by 5.71%. In other words, we're giving far more money to the Board of Education than we are to general government. And that's because we appreciate education, and, you know, that's essentially what we do. So to say it's unfair when we're doing exactly the opposite, somehow, you know, it sort of grates on me, because that's not what happened at all.
Thank you, Tony. Anybody else? Mike?
Mr. Chair, just a couple of things. You know, these are the two big ones, the Board of Education, now we have general government in front of us. I've heard a couple of things. I feel like this is the third year in a row we still don't have any idea what's needed for self-insurance. Now, I heard Mr. Bose say that it's you know, trigonometry. It's very difficult to predict. It's very difficult to know what's coming in and what's going out. But I really think, and I appreciate everything that self-insurance does. I am a dummy. I still don't understand it. We had Tommy Lombardi, who's here tonight. He talked every meeting, and we get the updates, and I still don't understand it. But I do know that there's always an excess, there's always a bundle there that's excess that we could possibly take from. I think we need a policy put in place, you know, where we know exactly how much we need. And I know that's very difficult, because Mr. Bose said it, it's very difficult to determine what we need. But, you know, they didn't have the appetite to make a motion and approve a number for, that's why we're here. This is our job as the town council. And then I think we're all being really friendly tonight, but Val, I gotta take you out on nobody wants cuts. The taxpayers want cuts because everyone's scrambling. We're scrambling. I did a lot of homework. We've worked so hard as a caucus on this budget. Wallingford, 3.65% increase. Bristol, 3.5% increase. North Haven, 2.65 mils. North Haven, first selectman said the most difficult budget in years. Plainville, 4.35%. West Hartford, 3.49%. Auto insurance went up 20% in the last year. Gasoline back at $4 a gallon. Groceries, 25%. Anyone bought a loaf of bread lately? $6 for a loaf of bread. And I'm nervous because I'm going to hear it, well, those are national issues. They really aren't. Because when it costs you an extra $1,000 a month to go grocery shopping, people aren't going to restaurants. People aren't going to Walmart and buying clothes. Because they have to decide whether or not they're going to put dinner on their table, or if they're going to spend the extra money for things that they want. Mortgage rates, over double in the past couple of years. We've got to do something. We have to do something to help the taxpayers. And increases, I've said it many times, we did 3 years in a row at 0, and I told everyone to savor the flavor, because it wasn't going to happen again. We had an increase last year. There's going to be an increase this year, and we worked really hard to keep it as low as we possibly could. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair?
Jack?
Thank you. So I appreciate everybody's input on this, first and foremost. I think this dialogue has been great. While Ms. DiPaolo was stating of finding some sort of cuts in the budget, I quickly started looking at the capital improvement plan for the highway department. And again, I don't want to see any cuts, because equipment I'm a big advocate for, but let's call it what it is. There's snow equipment in here, and if we're going to play that speculation of, hey, it doesn't snow, then why are we spending, I don't know, $620, about over $500,000 on extra snow equipment? It's, and Mr. Del Santo, no disrespect, but when you state that it's our job as a council, yes, it is our job. But when you have a self-insurance committee that is made up of individuals and there wasn't an appetite there, it's our job to listen to them. So I just find it very frustrating that, again, we talked about this and we wanted to present more to the town, but it wasn't, the best for the town, or we didn't feel that as a committee. So I just, there's a new leaf vac unit, $166,000. So if we're going to make cuts to the Board of Ed, I don't want to see cuts, to the highway department, but that's where I kind of know a lot of this stuff. And I see what our town has for equipment, and it's nice that we have new equipment. It's like the fire department. Our fire department has, I think, the best equipment around. We don't have firefighters to drive it, so it's, at what point do you try finding that balancing act that we have all the great equipment, we just don't have enough staff?
Jack, where's the snow equipment that you're referring to in the capital budget? Which page?
On the PDF, it's 204.
It's page 171 in the capital improvement program.
Those
That's
items
where the
don't-
list is, and then the details follow.
Yeah, which one is it, Jim? I see highway parks equipment, just in general.
There's the leaf equipment.
I see the leaf equipment. I'm looking for the
Page
snow.
185 is where it starts.
That's where the detail starts.
Correct, the details.
So that's how much is it, Jack?
So two
snow?
replacement plows for six-wheel dump trucks, $32,000. Two new plow attachments for sidewalk machine, $15,685. One stand-on blower, $17,000. One new utility body with liftgate plow for crew leader pickup, $26,675.
And what's the funding, Jack, what funding mechanism does it say that is?
The capital improvement
Yeah,
plan.
what's the funding mechanism, though?
That's what's on page 171.
It says
the
funding is cash
that's reallocation
2024.
That's going to the finance board Thursday, and then we'll be back to you.
Cash 2024.
So that doesn't affect our budget. All
Cash
that spending
2024.
doesn't affect our budget.
Well, it's still spending.
Yeah, it's carryover from this year.
It's spending.
Yes.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is none of those things can affect the budget that we're talking about for next year.
Well, again, we're spending, we could have put it elsewhere. Again, we're spending it.
No, that's money that's already spent from this year. If there's money left over this year, we're going to use that in the capital to fund these things. That's what the cash 2024 designates.
That's expenses and revenues from this fiscal year
Right.
that we're using to buy capital items for next
For
fiscal
next year.
So this is just saying,
Correct,
hey,
but
if
we're-
we got
we're
the
still
money.
buying it,
We're paying money for it,
Okay.
yes. No one's giving it to us, right?
Yeah.
still spending it. Got it.
So, just, if I could respond, but two of those things are directed at me, and no disrespect, not arguing, but Jack, you're on Public Works, you know farewell why we're buying the leaf equipment, because we're trying to be independent, we're trying to not hire contractors, we're doing this to save money. You know, and the self-insurance thing, I think I made it very clear, I have every respect for what the self-insurance committee does, but I just feel like it's 3 years in a row now, we don't know where that number should be. So if we
Thank you.
could break it down further and get a true number, so next year we're not in the same boat as we are.
Thank you.
In the past three.
Yeah,
Appreciate it, Mike.
just
Hold on,
one
hold on,
last-
Jack. Let's just let Jen, Jen hasn't spoken yet. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to correct kind of a misstatement from Jack, because I'm part of the self-insurance committee, and there were several of us that did want to utilize or thought reserves should be utilized. It just wasn't brought to a vote because we all agreed that it didn't need to be. So that's just a correction there.
Thank you. All good, Val, Chris?
I'm good.
Chris? Jack, did you want to go again?
No, good.
All good? Okay, Jim?
Yes, I'd like to make some clarifications for the public. So, again, we heard a lot, cut, and actually, we're not cutting anything. We're increasing the school board budget by 5.7% and the government budget by 3.54%. And I also want to comment that I don't think it's my job to nitpick in the budget to talk about how many snowplows they're going to take. You know, we have a bigger obligation here to make sure that our taxes remain flat or within reason, and that we fund the government properly. And one of the things that we didn't talk about tonight is the fact that the state is squeezing us because we are prudent and because we have been fiscally sound. They gave us $1,000 less in our grant money this year. And we also, the school board got nicked $115,000. So again, everybody works on projections and budgets. They all know their business. And I always say that the professionals should run their business, and our job is to balance the numbers. And so, you know, that might not be fair, but again, I don't think it's my job to dig that deep in the budget. I think my job is to make sure that we're fair and equitable with our money, and that it gets used in a proper way. And I think that this budget definitely does that.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, with that, we are going to take the roll call on a motion to approve $50,886,739 for the general government operating budget excluding recreation for fiscal year 2024-2025. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Palmieri,
No.
Perry,
No.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
No.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes 5-3. Thank you, everybody. Let's move on to item 1C. This is the recreation budget.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve $926,023 for the Recreation Department budget for fiscal 24-25.
Second, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. Discussion.
Can I just make a comment? I had asked the manager to remove this part from the operational budget because I do work seasonally for the recreation department, so I will be recusing myself from voting on this.
Thank you, Chris. Any other discussion?
One more piece of clarification for the public. The reason why the number is much larger than last year is the calendar house
Is now-
and the recreation
yes.
are together now. So don't think the recreation budget went through the roof. Those two are together.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good. Anybody? Nobody wants to cut the calendar house recreation budget? All right. Madam Clerk, we are going to call the roll for a motion for $926,023 for the rec department for 2024-25.
Perry,
No.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes. The motion passes 6-1, if I'm correct.
611.
6-1, one abstention. Thank you. Okay, thanks, everybody. Item 1D. We are going on to town debt service.
Okay, motion, Mr. Chair, to
Yes.
approve the debt service budget for fiscal year 2024 to 25 in the sum of $63,324.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Open for discussion? Yes, Tony?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something pretty quickly. In terms of cuts, the debt service has been cut this year, not by a large amount, by $40,000, and which is a tribute to anybody dealing with finances in the town, whether they work for the town or whether they work for the Board of Finance or us. But the important thing about that is we try and keep our debt service within a 7% range, 7 to 8% usually. It's gone down as a percentage of our budget from 7.7 last year to 7.2% this year. And that sets us up quite nicely for some of the expenses that are going to occur over the next few years if our plans, if our plans turn out to be what they think they are. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Tony. Anybody else? Okay, Madam Clerk, we are going to call the roll on a motion to approve $13,063,324 for the debt service budget 2024-2025.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, the motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Excellent. What's that? We can pay our bills, that's right. Okay, item E, 5E, the sewer fund.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to propose a motion to approve $6,890,494 for the sewer fund budget for fiscal year 2024 to 2025.
Second, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion and a second. Discussions on the sewer fund? No? Okay. Madam Clerk, we're going to call a roll for $6,890,494 for the sewer fund budget 2024-25.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes unanimously, 8-0. We're moving on to item 5F, Animal Control Fund.
Yeah. Go, Jim.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve $300,846 for the Animal Control Budget Fund for fiscal 24-25.
Second, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion and a second on the Animal Control Fund. Any discussion?
Meow.
Okay. Madam Clerk, we're going to call a roll call for $300,846 for the Animal Control Fund budget for 24-25.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes unanimously 8-0. And now we need item 5G, Capital Budget, Year 1.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the fiscal year 24-25 five-year capital improvement plan project list and to proceed with the recommended funding strategies outlined in year 1 as approved by the Board of Finance totaling $24,612,744.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the capital budget, Year 1. Any discussion? No discussions? No proposals for cuts there? Okay. We're going to call the roll, Madam Clerk, on the motion to approve 2024-25 five-year capital improvement plan project list, Year 1, in the amount of $24,612,744, which was already approved by the Board of Finance.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
No.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, the motion passes 7-1. And I think that's all we have, Mr. Town Manager.
All the
Anything else on the
budgets I
budgets?
have for you this year, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you, everybody, on the budgets. I'd like to just summarize there.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Over-
may, can I have someone just make a general motion to adjust the current property tax revenues for the motions made tonight and approved tonight?
Repeat that again?
So moved by Mr. Bose.
I'm sorry, wait a second. Jim, what do you?
To reduce-
I'm not sure I understand what.
To reduce the tax revenues required to fund the budget based upon the actions taken tonight.
Do we need that? I
It's-
think the
it's
Board
in
of
general.
Finance does that.
Normally, we don't, if Jim feels comfortable doing that, I'm fine with that. What it means is because our expenses went down,
Right.
he's also expenses, obviously, the taxes we need to
That's
go
correct.
down. I'm fine with the motion if Jim is comfortable doing it.
Then the Board of Finance will take that action, right, at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
That's not required by charter, right? We're good. Okay.
It's an automatic.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, once you reduce the expenses, we don't collect as much taxes.
All right, and I'd just like to, overall, what we've approved here on the general government side is going to yield a 3.54% increase in general government spending, not including debt service or capital. It's going to also increase the Board of Education funding, excluding debt service and excluding capital, 5.71%. It's going to basically put, if you include debt service, if you include capital, it's 4.8 to the general government, 4.9 to the Board of Education. And I would like to just point out that overall, what are the taxpayers going to feel for this budget? Overall, what are the taxpayers going to feel for the budget? On the Board of Education side, it's going to yield a 6.94% tax increase to the residents. On the general government side, it's going to be a negative 2.39% tax increase. It's going to be a negative 0.35% increase on the debt service. And overall, the mill rate increase is projected to increase 3.56% as a town. Okay? Okay, thank you, everybody. We're going to move on to reports of special committees, starting with A, our favorite topic for tonight, self-insurance.
Well, I think we did this one to death. But just quickly, just to summarize in a couple of sentences, we met and we took the latest projections. The town council decided to act on that latest projection, and you saw the results in the budget this evening.
Thank you. Are there any questions on self-insurance? Jack,
No,
anything else?
I just want to re-echo that there was no appetite, which would have meant that there was no support on further cuts.
I'm sorry, Jack, you're saying that nobody on the self-insurance committee wanted to reduce the self-insurance? Is that what you're saying?
So there was no appetite for a motion, which meant there was no support for additional cuts.
I got you.
No,
Go ahead, Jen.
I have to, I'm sorry, Jack, that's just not true, because I was in support of using the reserves.
And you should have made a motion.
No, we
Jack, hang on, let's-
collaborated bipartisanly to agree that the town council would look at it and make a decision.
Okay, anybody else? All right. Moving on to item B, SHS roof. Chris, I think that's you today.
Sure.
Thank you.
The committee met on Tuesday, April 30th. The main purpose was to look at services for the solar project that we're trying to add on the high school roof. So with that, we discussed information from our energy consultant. He was involved in the discussion. And at the meeting, we interviewed CSW Energy and CLE Sustainability Advisors and decided to move forward with awarding them the project. They gave a great presentation. I think it's going to be really beneficial for the board to have another solar array on the roof of Southington High School.
That's great. Questions about the roof at the high school? Okay, hearing none, moving on to Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a very long and involved report. I'm joking. I have 3 quick items. We did have the household hazardous waste event last month. It brought in a total of 267 total vehicles, and 244 were from Southington. So that's a great project. They have those a couple times a year in different communities, and just so happened that Southington had this one. It was very well attended. Some bad news about the transfer station. We did have a resident that came in on the 27th of April, and he did not have an updated sticker, and so staff told him that he couldn't dump because we give many opportunities for residents to get updated stickers. So this resident was very upset and proceeded to just not listen to the directives of the town staff and went and dumped his stuff. So the police were involved, the town attorney looked into it, or corporate counsel and the town attorney looked into it, and they went to the resident and let him know that that kind of behavior is unacceptable, and that person lost their transfer station pass for a year. So I just want to remind everyone that you know, these are employees of the town, they're human beings, they're there on a Saturday. There's tons of opportunities for you to get your pass. They give everyone until March 1st to get a pass, so we need to follow the rules. And then the last item, Mr. Chair, is that Recreation Park Pool is at 99% complete, so it should be ready to rock as soon as the hot weather comes.
Chris, get ready.
That's right.
Bring on the warmth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any questions on Public Works? Okay, item D, open space.
Very quickly, our Pleasant Street Garden has been tilled, and we're in the process of transitioning the old Academy Street Garden over to Pleasant Street. So that will be our main community garden. We may move the shed, that's being reviewed. And also, plans are moving forward for development of the barn, which is also, as we mentioned before, part of the master plan. So more to come in the future.
Excellent,
How many
thank you.
chickens you got there? How many chickens are in there?
That's a Chris
Well,
question.
No roosters.
So right now, the chickens are hatched. I shared at Open Space. There's 7 chicks right now still in the school, and then once they get a little older, and we determine whether they are hens or roosters, then we'll move them out there. So the plan is to not move any roosters over to that site.
Okay,
The other-
thank you, Chris.
The other thing,
we'll
just
have a
to add,
problem.
the other thing, just to add, as Jen mentioned, the garden was tilled. Huge thanks to Mark Ramsey, because Mark Ramsey does a lot for the town, and he's the one that.
Mark
took care of
asked,
it for
what if
us.
there are roosters? Then we have a chicken dinner at the pop.
Great.
No?
Thank you, Mark Ramsey. We appreciate all you do. Excellent. Okay, item E, apple harvest.
We met on Wednesday, May 8th. A couple things. First of all the vendor apps are now available online. The parade apps are also available online. And the permits are all secured for our roads during the festival. And then the last big item that was on the agenda is deciding the beverage vendor. And this really speaks to the benefit of going out for proposals. Coke and Pepsi are always kind of neck and neck. This year, we did decide to award the beverage vendor to Pepsi. They're just a little bit more benefit to the town. So I see your drink. Is that on cue? Yeah. Drinking your Pepsi? So Pepsi will be the official beverage vendor for the upcoming festival.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions about apple harvest? Wonderful. Moving on to sewer.
Okay, just we did a few things, but one quick item that we need to talk about was very quickly. There's PCB contamination still at the sewer plant, and it has to be fixed. The engineering partner is working with DEEP. The first item to start that project was done by signing a contract with Ty and Bond for $129,000. It involves a good deal of preparatory work, including developing RFPs for the contractors who are actually going to do the work of cleaning the PCBs up. The PCB situation will be funded from the sewer reserves. We talked a lot about reserves tonight. The money is there to do it. It'll be funded from that. We will use it, in a judicious fashion, and that should be completed in a year or so.
Thank you. Any questions about sewer for Tony?
Yeah, what a surprise.
Wonderful. Ordinance. Tony, I think you're up again.
That's me too. At the meeting of the Ordnance Committee, we developed 2 ordinances which were, put to our attention. The first is a straightforward one. It's to do with stormwater stuff. It comes from the state. It was put together. We have to do it. It's essentially the law. The second one is one we developed ourselves. It's a sewer ordinance. It gives the ability for if a developer is next to the sewer line is essentially the zone in Southington where we essentially allow sewers. Outside of that zone, you have to have septic tanks. And the reason that zone is protected is to do with the sewer plant, what it can accommodate in terms of flows. So if somebody outside wants to ask for sewers, we will say no. This policy, though, this ordinance gives the ability in very very, very short cases, that you can actually swap. If you have a capability elsewhere inside the sewer zone, you can swap it, septic versus sewer, as long as certain conditions are met. One is the property has to be pretty much the same, and you have a penalty of a 20%. You can have 20% less rooms in the new space. There's other conditions as well. We don't have islands of septic tanks within the sewers and things. There's got to be coexisting to sewer lines. But it does give a developer an ability to do that if they accept the penalty and that the town is okay with it. We've never had that before. We think it's important to be an ordinance, not to be obviously a one-by-one case, exception case. We want it to be ordinance and essentially people will follow. Don't anticipate too much of that, but it's there if it's needed.
Thank you, Tony. Any questions on the ordinance committee work?
Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Val.
Tony,
Sure.
the minutes from the meeting, it talks about, on this one, it talks about suggested changes and revisions, including how to make it fairer and more transparent for applicants in the town of Southington. So is there some changes in the, in what we have tonight?
No, I don't remember any changes, no.
Okay.
I think-
Those are the minutes from the.
Yeah, I know,
ordinance,
there was some grammatical changes or stuff like that, but there wasn't,
But nothing of substance.
nothing of substance, no.
So,
Okay.
so we'll, do we need to update the minutes?
Well, I just would be careful because I wasn't able to be I'm on the ordinance committee, I wasn't able to be at the meeting, and when I looked at the minutes, it just kind of suggested that changes were made to this, but, so there were no changes.
Well, grammatical ones, I mean, just to clean that up. That's it.
Okay, so it says.
Oh, sorry.
The committee had discussion and suggested changes and revisions to proposed ordinance, including how to make it fairer and more transparent for applicants and the town of Southington. So it just raised, I mean, it just raised a question to me.
I wonder if that's summarizing, Val, the discussion about, because I think overall, this does make it transparent and it does
And it
make
does
it
make it fair.
Yeah,
fairer.
it's already that way.
But you know what?
I would
Let's,
just check
let's
that. I
ask
don't know.
Bill to follow up on that.
Okay.
And double check to ensure that what we have in our packet is the most accurate
Is the final.
with staff.
Yeah.
And then we'll, Mr. Town Manager, if we could just,
We would need to know that pretty quickly since I have to advertise for the 28th.
yeah.
Sorry,
So
are you-
let's double check.
Are you talking about the ordinance or the sewer minutes?
No, I'm talking, I'm speaking about the ordinance committee minutes.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about the sewer.
I have them here if you want.
No, I got it. Yeah, some were made by the ordinance committee, but again, they were very few and far between. They were only cleaning up stuff to make it so there was no mistake in various things. There was nothing of substance added during that ordinance committee meeting.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I'm assuming that since this also came from the corporate counsel's office, that
Yeah.
these are the most recent ones.
It's the most recent ones they got.
So we'll ask them
Just
to
that
confirm.
His corporate counsel's memo was dated April 17th, so
Yeah,
this was the
we'll ask
original
him.
that. Yeah.
Yep. All right, Mr. Town Manager, will you help us follow up on that?
Certainly.
Thank you. And so then, what we have in our packet is a first read for everybody, because it'll go up for a public hearing based on the actuals from the minutes. Okay. Moving on to Town Manager's report and communications.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item is a certified resolution, what had to do with your public hearing tonight. What it's saying is that you're authorizing me to sign any documents necessary to apply for up to $2 million for the Housing Authority for the grant that was explained earlier tonight. Happy to answer any questions you have on that.
Anything on the CDBG resolution? Okay.
Second item is the Fair Housing Resolution. As some of you may be aware, I think it was 3 years ago, was the last time we updated the Fair Housing Resolution when we applied for the last grant. In this particular case, they want an up-to-date grant that's less than X number of days, so therefore I'm asking once again for permission to have Kathy sign our updated fair housing resolution, no major changes were made. It just has to be dated more up to date. Any questions on that? All right, if there's no questions on that, the third item, you heard last week, I know that T is here, and I owe you some comp time, T, for staying all night for this one, but this is the actual contract that we're hoping to have you authorize me to sign. This is for the personal property audits that were explained at the last meeting. They went through Alex's office, and there's a memo here from T where she said that Alex has already reviewed them, and she's here to answer any questions that you may have or any guidance you want to give.
Okay, we've been given the information in the packet regarding what I would call kind of the middle ground
Yep.
between the original proposal and where we were before we started. So thank you, Teresa, for helping us find this spot. I think this is a great step forward. Anybody have any questions about the agent that has been found, which is under the requirement to put it out to bid? So that's good. We found the agent, and they're going to do it on a per audit basis, based on the size of the
I
audit.
believe, if you want to step up, I don't want to speak for you, but I believe it's 625?
625 per audit, yep.
And also, just so you know, from a financial standpoint, as I mentioned before, the council will make the final decision next year, but we're using carryover funds and funds that we currently have to fund this particular year's contract. Teresa will put in her budget next year the amount, and therefore it has to go through the process. So next year, you'll see through the process, through her office, an actual line item for this particular contract that has to be approved by this council as well as the Board of Finance and the future town manager.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Jen?
Couple questions. Part of a typical auditing process is sometimes you cannot get a hold of the person or company that's being audited. What is the charge for a non-compliant audit? Is it still the same flat fee?
It's going to be the same flat fee, I believe. I don't have a definite answer on that for you.
Okay.
But I know that they do have letters here, templates for the letters that they would send. And I know it's not really your question, but they would, if it'd be better for them to comply, only because the auditor still has the ability to increase their assessment based on other businesses of the same category. So there is a process for that, and I'm assuming it's still the same 625, but I would be happy to find out for sure and let you know.
Yes, definitely find out.
Yep.
Also, tell us a little bit about the process of how he's going to be choosing who's going to be audited.
He is going to work with my office, where he's going to be coming in, and he's going to be having me pull some reports. And I heard from the council members here last meeting that it was your hope, your request, actually, that there be the same
Directive, I
percentage
believe. The word is
of
directive. They're directive.
directive, yeah, the mandate to ensure, I had given a breakdown out of all the non-filers, how many were in each category, and I had heard that there was to be some consistency with the percentage of each group. So at least that's going to happen, and we'll see where we end up after that.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're
So there'll
welcome.
be representation in each of the groups. Jen, is there a recommendation, I'm sorry, Val, I just want to double, is there a recommendation on any stipulations that we need to put on this for a non-compliant audit?
In my experience, I would just expect that a non-compliant audit would be of a lesser charge, a fraction of the charge, probably a quarter of it. That would be my recommendation, but again, this is a different kind of audit than I deal with, so that might not be consistent with the industry.
I will find out.
Val?
So Teresa, last time we had talked about, how many do you think he'll be able to do? It's going to be for the year, right?
It's going to be for the year, and I'm thinking 40.
That's what I thought.
40 to 45,
I've
yeah.
written down between 35 and 40.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we don't have a huge amount of the businesses that are up over 1 million.
Right, but there will be
There- but there
a
will
sampling
be
from
some.
that category,
Okay.
yeah. So we're going to do it not only between the groups of non-filer categories, but also the amount of
Of
assets.
their assessed value, yeah. Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Jack. Please.
I have a quick question. So, just to clarify, non-filers and filers would be randomly pulled, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. Any other questions? Okay.
That's my report, and there's hopefully no more executive sessions tonight, so.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you.
Okay, Town Attorney's report. Thank you, Teresa. Town Attorney's report.
We were in executive session. I gave the council an update of my report. It'd be tough to follow the act. It's taken place in public, therefore, I have nothing else to add.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to now open up to item number 9, public communications. Would anybody like to speak today? Please, come on up. When you go to the podium, you'll have 5 minutes, up to 5 minutes, and please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, everybody. My name is Vishal Dagat, and I'm a resident here in Southington at Water Street. I'm here to represent
Which address on Atwater Street?
456 at Water Street.
Thank you.
And I'm here to represent BAPS Charities. I volunteer there. I'm also an educator and also a scientist researcher. BAPS Charities is a global entity. We have more than 110 centers in North America. We volunteer to give our time. Many of the activities that is done by the BAPS Charities include the blood drive, yearly walkathon, as you can see on my T-shirt. We have scheduled something this year also on June 2nd in Rocky Hill. And we also do health awareness lectures and many other activities to help local fire department and police departments. And we had over 350 community members participate in last time we had the walk organized in Newington. As part of this community, we spend our time helping other local community members. And I'm here to represent the BAPS Charities. I hope to see you, everybody there. I have a flyer for you to register if you're free, and you are welcome. I would also like to have Riya Patel come forward and share her own experience being a volunteer in this organization.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hello, everyone. My name is Riya Patel, and I live at 109 Aspen Way in Southington. So, like he mentioned, I'm transitioning to my senior year at the University of Connecticut, and I'm excited to reach out and express my support for the BAPS organization and our upcoming walkathon. So, for over a decade, this organization has been a vital role in my personal growth, community engagement, and cultural values. I volunteer at my temple every Sunday and have been for over 10 years. As a youth coordinator, the walkathon holds a very special place in my heart. One of my favorite moments of our walk is when cars are passing by and they honk at us, and I see the little kids get super excited because for them, that honk is a symbol of what they're walking for, our cause. So it just helps strengthen their commitment, and it helps them know that they are making a difference within their community. I'm grateful to be part of such a cause where parents, children, and even grandparents come together to support our local community. This event helps to spread a sense of unity and pride for all those who take part in it. Overall, I just want to thank each one of you for providing me an opportunity to share my story. The BAPS organization and events like the walkathon have helped shape me into the person I am today, and for that, I am deeply grateful. Again, I'd just like to invite all of you to join if you're able to. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. And we will put that into the meeting minutes so people can see that once it's posted. Anybody else? Sue?
Susan Zabahansky, 28 Working Street. I'd like to thank everyone for their work on the budget. As you know my position, most of you, I don't think it was reduced enough. That's just my initial stance. I'd like to see it reduced even more because as was mentioned here, there's a lot of taxpayers in Southington who are suffering with the inflation that we've all been facing. I actually agreed with Councilman DiPaolo on one item, which is unusual when it comes to politics. When it comes to dogs, it's another story. That if we have excess in reserve, 8 million in a fund, 20, whatever it is, 36 in a, in another, that's overtaxation to the residents of Southington. And I don't think, unlike what was mentioned here, that we should just decide to spend that money willy-nilly. Councilman Del Santo at the last budget talked about how his dad talked about money burning a hole in their pocket. And I think that's a good analogy here. Just because we have extra money in reserves doesn't mean it should just get spent on projects. It should be, there should be a rebate to the taxpayer, in my opinion, or we should tax less the next year. I've heard narratives of creating crises, like false crises, that are highly unlikely. When you have $8 million in reserve, it's highly unlikely that you're going to, like a $300,000 reduction is going to affect that. So I don't like, drama when it comes to the budget, for whatever narrative it be. It's just creating false crisis to get people, upset about something that's not even likely going to happen. Many of you guys touched on some of the things I talked about. One thing I'd like to mention, we keep talking about, we have all this great fire equipment and we don't have firefighters to drive it. We added 3 new firefighters full-time, paid. And that's not, we need to, somehow utilize our volunteers in a better fashion. We do have a mixed, fire department. So that's another thing. It's kind of a false narrative, like we're not supporting our fire department. We've added 3 new firefighters that the taxpayers are going to have to begin to fund fully soon. It's not even fully in our budget yet. I think we have a couple more years. And one thing I want to note is that when we talk about state money and state funding, that's Southington residents. So when we talk about, the state didn't give us money, it's not the state, that's taxpayer money. So we shouldn't, when we talk about grants, we talk about it like it's not our money, it's taxpayer money. And where it comes from our pocket locally or from our state taxes, it's something we need to reduce. We need to reduce spending all across the board, not just in one spot. With that in mind, once again, the minority party had no feasible proposals or actionable items tonight on this budget, yet they voted no. Why do we elect people to scrutinize the budget, come up with plans, not just vote no? There should be actionable items for reduction. So we're talking about reducing things, but there was nothing feasible or actionable. So that needs to, you can't just say vote no and then in the next election cycle say Republicans raise the taxes, however many mil it's going to be raised. You have to have, we elect you to come and scrutinize the budget and come up with feasible solutions that are good for the town and the taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Good evening, Regina.
Regina Coviello, 12 Beecher Street. First of all, on the budget, I guess basically everyone's all over. For me, and I've said it, before, I want education for my grandchildren, want the lower mill rate, but guess what? We can't have it all. We can't have it all. And, I would love to do it, do everything, but we can't. I feel that it was pretty fair, the budget, and I think they did a good job at least compromising in my state anyway. Yes, I'm hurting financially, but I don't want my kids to hurt, So that's where I stand on that. But on a good note, what I'd like to talk about is I was at the Fun Day with my soon-to-be 5-year-old granddaughter. And I don't know everyone that was involved, but people that were there that I saw, I'd just like to, do a shout out. Jim in that. He was there. He actually paid for my granddaughter to go on the hayride. Melissa and Mary, let me tell you, those two worked their butts off. I wish they were here so I could tell them that. And wow, you should see Mary driving the tractor. Unbelievable. Okay, unbelievable. And then we have Jamie, who was going back and forth, okay, from the hayride to, the dunk tank. And then, of course, Jamie and Jack here and Candace were in the dunk tank. And my granddaughter had a blast. And as Jack knows, he got up there, and my granddaughter was the first one to get a shot at Jack. She's only 5. And, 4 balls. Oh, the 4th one almost got it. That 5th one got it. Okay, and he went down. So yeah, he got knocked in the dunk tank, by a soon-to-be 5-year-old, and that. But then she couldn't get Candace or Jamie, so they let her push the button. So I just wanted to say it was a wonderful, wonderful day, and she had a blast. And I just want to thank all of them.
Thank you,
Okay?
Regina.
Okay. Oh, and we do have pictures, just so you know, Jack.
Okay. Anybody else would like to speak during public communications? Going once, twice. Okay, we will close public communications. We will move into item 10, old business. We're looking for a motion on item A, action on 2024 Southington Housing Authority CDBG grant application.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Do we need a roll call on that? Okay, we'll take a roll call, Madam Clerk.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo.
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes?
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Item 10B, action on the CDBG resolution.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second?
Motion and a second from Val. Any discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, would you call the roll, Madam Clerk?
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo.
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes?
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Item C, action on the fair housing resolution.
I'll make a motion to update the fair housing resolution as outlined by the town manager.
Second.
Motion and a second by the vice chair. Any discussion on that? Okay, hearing none. Let's call the roll, please, Madam Clerk.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes?
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Item 10D, action on personal property audit contract that Teresa came in.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion from Chris and a second from Mike. Any discussion on the audit contract, personal property audit contract?
Mr. Chair, I just want to thank Teresa for, she's been following up on this. It's been a while now, and just to be able to find this option, I think is great. So we'll see what happens.
Thank you. Hopefully, we're going to generate some more revenue. Any other discussion? And Mark, it may be good, we talked about the budget, or you mentioned the budget next year. I think it would be great if we could have, as we approach that, an analysis done so that it will support the budget request. Thank you.
I'm sure T will present that to the new manager, so she puts it in her budget.
Okay. Put it on your calendar. Okay. Do we need to have a roll call on that, or can we
No,
just?
voice vote.
Okay, all in favor on the personal property audit contract?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 8-0 unanimously. 10E, scheduling of the public hearing for illicit discharge and connection stormwater ordinance.
So moved.
We recommend May 28th at 7 PM in this room.
Okay,
That sounds good.
we have a motion from Mr. Del
I'll
Santo.
second.
And Chris, second. Any discussion on the public hearing for illicit discharge? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 8-0. Item F, scheduling of public hearing for sewer exclusion zone ordinance.
Recommend May 28th at 7 o'clock.
Make a motion to approve for May 28th at 7 PM.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion for the public hearing on sewer exclusion zone passes unanimously 8-0. Item 11, new business. We're looking for a motion for the appointment of the town manager.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to appoint Alex Rickardone as the new town manager for the town of Southington.
Alex J. Rickardone?
No.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Del Santo and a second from the vice chair. Discussion.
Beginning at 10:05 PM. Beginning, what is it, June 1? July 1?
July 1.
2024.
10:05 sounds pretty good, actually, right now, but July 1 it would be.
Last I checked, he goes to bed around 8. so.
Listen to no podcast.
Okay, any discussion on the nomination for the next town manager? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, can we call the roll, please?
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes?
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes. Motion passes 8-0 unanimously. Item B. Yes. Excellent. Okay.
Very nice, Alex.
Item B, approval of the town manager contract.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the town manager contract.
Second?
And we have a motion from Mike and a second from Val. And just for the record, I have an updated copy that was an output from our discussion that we had during executive session. So this is the approved contract that we are about to vote on.
It'll be put in the
And it's put in the minutes. You have a copy, Madam Clerk? Wonderful. And it's reflective of all the changes that we discussed. Okay. So we have a motion and a second on the approval of the town manager contract. Is there any further discussion on that?
Mr. Chair, just briefly, I want to, congratulate Alex. This was an arduous journey. We started this a few months ago, and I'm very excited to have Alex take the realm. I hope he can be as successful as our previous 3 town managers. I know he has every ability to do so. So I wish him nothing but the best of luck.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, we're going to call the roll on item B, approval of town manager contract.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes?
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, the motion passes unanimously 8-0. I would like to just make a quick statement on this, if it's okay. I wrote a small, very short statement on this that I'd like to give. It's dated today. A new era has arrived in the town of Southington. Congratulations to Alex J. Rickardone, who with this vote as of July will become only our 4th manager in our town's history. With the appointment of Alex Rickardone, Southington will look to build on the decades of tradition, success, and learnings that have been woven together through the various roles held by our current town manager, Mark Schoda, and those who preceded him. Alex brings more than 13 years' experience from his previous roles in business strategy consulting as an analyst with Deloitte, leadership and legal experience as a major, deputy staff judge advocate with the United States Air Force Reserves, legal experience as a private attorney, and municipal experience as our former assistant town attorney and town attorney, and most recently as our corporation counsel and deputy town manager. Through the interview process, Alex has articulated nicely his vision for both greater engagement and services for our community, but also building on and transforming the methods and tools used to operate our town, while fostering a collaborative environment for the town's employees. We look forward to him coming up to speed quickly and to his contributions during the term of his contract. I would like to thank all the candidates who expressed interest and interviewed for the position. I would personally like to thank the council for their steadfast work during the interview process, and to the subcommittee, Mike, Chris, Lara, Lou, and to the subcommittee who dedicated many hours to interview and narrow down the field of candidates for the council at large. I'd like to thank our town's attorney, Lou Martaccio, for his review and legal guidance. And finally, I'd like to give a special thank you to Lara Nichols, the town's human resources head, for her excellent organization and diligent efforts while managing the process and logistics. Now I'd like to offer the floor to Alex for just a couple minutes to say a few words. Your name and address for the record.
Alex Rickard on 186 Summit Street. I'm just going to start with Val. Ordinance Committee, two things were to save everybody some time since it's late. There were some changes. One was about the financial affidavits, what we want on the affidavits to make it more clear. That was for the benefit of the applicants.
Yep.
The second one, there was some concern about people owning parcels going up to a neighbor and they own 1% interest in that.
Yep.
So we try to work on that. And the third one was delinquent taxes and sewer bills. If you have any other entities that are related at all, you're not there.
Then
Oh,
you
my
can't, you
apologies.
can't put the application in.
Correct. You'll be denied. So
Thank you for the
just to
brief
save some
update.
time for everybody,
Thank you.
so Mark does not have to follow up with that.
That comes off your 5 minutes.
I just want to say thank you to the committee. It was a lot of work. Lara talked to me earlier today, how much time she put in, how much time all of you put in, and I do appreciate it. I appreciate the bipartisan support. I'm not sure any town manager has ever received unanimous before, so it means a lot to me, and I know I have really big shoes to fill. It's late, and I'm not going to embarrass Mark that much, but this is really about him. When I was in high school, I was reading The Observer, if you're old enough to remember that, and it was when he originally was appointed town manager. My mother said to me, that guy's a good guy. I worked with his partner as a paralegal 15 years ago. And she says, he's going to do a great job. And I never really thought about it. And then as the years went on, I'm like, I started meeting this guy. I'm talking to him like, there's really something to him. And he really, and it sounds kind of
Very
corny, but
unassuming.
yeah, he did, a lot of this is for him. He is a great leader. He shepherded me. He taught me a lot in a very short amount of time. So I do thank him for that. Big shoes to fill, very, very big shoes. I'm glad you're sticking around for a little bit because it's, you did a hell of a job.
I'm always a phone call away.
Yes. And second of all, I want to thank the employees. The town employees do a great job. They are so unappreciated. Everyone appreciates the police, fire, that's great. We all do. But there are some people who work in the trenches. There's people working behind the offices that you don't see, you don't know about. They're the ones doing a lot of the work that keep the lights on, keep this building clean. They work great. They make Mark look great. And I hope, we're going to keep working, so leadership. And they help you look great, too. So we really need to work with them, make sure that they're on board. We treat them well, and then they will treat us well in return. And then I do want to just thank my poor wife, who's at home with a crying baby right now. She lets me live here and stay here and do this job. She travels to Massachusetts a couple days a week for her work. And she says, you know what, you love it, you want to do this. So I do thank her very much, even though she's probably sleeping now. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your confidence in me. And I look forward to working and to keep moving Mark's vision forward in the future.
Thank you again, Alex. Okay, last item before adjournment, tax refunds.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve our tax refunds that are presented in our packet.
Thank you, Jack.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and adjourn?
Second.
Second from Jim?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, everybody.